All right, welcome. Hello, I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, and helping entrepreneurs and online business owners around the world. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. Today, we have got a super fun guest. The topics that we're going to cover, I just know are going to be awesome. Loral Langemeier is here with us. Welcome, Loral.
Well, thank you, Heather. It's great to be here. Excited to see your podcast launching. Exciting times.
It is exciting times. It's been so fun. That's been one of the big bonuses that has come out of COVID for me. So Loral and I, for folks that don't know Loral, first of all, you should know her, and many of you will and do already know of Loral's work in the world. Loral and I crossed paths, 5 years ago now. I think it's been 5 years. I was really just launching a new idea for a new business, and it's really a parallel path for the way that I can serve entrepreneurs who I already am serving, right? So that was the whole idea behind the Legal Website Warrior. And so I got connected. I can't even remember initially how, but I got connected with Loral's online program where she teaches you to make fast cash. That was my very first experience. Yep. And I jumped in and did it. There's actually a whole backstory behind that I should tell you sometime, Loral, because I don't know if I ever have. But then the next year I ended up at one of your live events, the Ultimate Millionaire Summit Live, right? So that's when I very first met you in person, really enjoyed that event. Felt like I was in a group of entrepreneurs who I could relate to, right?
Yep.
You and I talked about that. Anyway, so Loral is here. For those of you that don't know Loral, she is a New York Times bestselling author and speaker. She is also known as the Millionaire Maker and was featured in the movie The Secret. She has helped create thousands of millionaires through her mastermind group, her wealth building seminars, live workshops, and more. She's been on CNN, CNBC, The Dr. Phil Show, The View, and more. Loral grew up in Nebraska. And also, I love this about her business. Through her business, Live Out Loud, which is now called Integrated Wealth Systems, right?
Yep.
She has provided free financial education on fundraising via her mentorship programs to hundreds of children by providing scholarships of well over $3 million over the past 15 years. So Loral, this is what one of my favorite things actually about that first live event that I went to is you had like a kids program or something there. Like you had children there and this whole thing that they got to participate in and learn about entrepreneurship as kids. And so I love that about your work and what you teach. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit. Take us back to the roots of your path into entrepreneurship. How did it start for you?
Well, again, I grew up in a farm in Nebraska. So, farmers are really entrepreneurs, but I don't think that there was no conversation like that. It wasn't an association like that. So you kind of just figure it out. And my parents were very young. They were babies having babies. So I would say really young teenage parents. And there was a certain period where my mom started a catering business. She was really great at decorating cakes. And that was just for extra income, which is so interesting because I think so many women identify with the business, whatever they're doing is having to be the extra income versus the income,
right?
Or, their life or their purpose. And so, I was mowing lawns. I was driving tractor at 7. I was mowing lawns, mowing cemeteries for money at 13. So I kind of always had, that's that whole psychology. I was in 4-H and sold calves and sheep and horses and all that kind of stuff. And so when I was 17 and went off to university, I was on an academic basketball and academic and athletic scholarship, but it wasn't enough money to go to a private university. So I had to get a job, so there's the kids always say that, we're in everything. So I was in everything. And there's those that were being, their parents paid for everything. And those of us that had to go work. And so I remember I went to work at a bank for like a minute and I thought this whole job thing, reporting for duty is not going to be me ever. So I was at the gym and literally looking around and people were following other people around. And I asked the gym owner, I was like, what are they doing? And he said, oh, there's a personal trainers. And I said, well, how much do they make? And he said, 40 an hour. And I said, I'm a personal trainer. So at 17, I just, declared myself that. And probably a year later, I had 16 people from the basketball team and track team working for me because they'd rather work for me than a job. And we got into swimming lessons. I mean, all through my bachelor's, which is in finance, and I got a master's in exercise physiology. I trained people in all sorts of sports, speed training, nutrition, all sorts of stuff, and then got into corporate wellness. And 24 was probably my big breakthrough year. I got a huge contract with Chevron to build 272 fitness centers on offshore oil rigs. So
I remember that.
I just said yes. And I think the theme of not only being an entrepreneur, but what I teach about money, just like the workshop you did, and we're doing that workshop now, that Making Money workshop, we call it our marketplace. We're doing that twice a month now during COVID. People learn to make money really fast. So I just kind of naturally did it and knew how to leverage. But I also had a lot of good mentors. I had mentors ever since I was 17 as well. So I think I did a few things right. I got to figure out how to make money. Which is not difficult. Anybody can do it. But when you're trained as an employee, I mean, the biggest kind of code I have to crack for most people, and especially during COVID with the amount of employees that have been laid off and really kind of, I shouldn't say forced to become an entrepreneur because they kind of want to be, but they're scared to be.
Yes.
Is the amount of employee thinking they have. I mean, they're so conditioned to not think, right? School conditions you to not think, to not collaborate, to not do everything you do as an entrepreneur. So you have to unlearn a lot of employee things. And, I'll get clients, and Heather, you can totally appreciate this. And I'll say, I'm not your boss. I'm your mentor. I'm your coach. I am not going to tell you what to do. You have to get up and do a revenue producing day. So those are probably, some of the things that I really teach that's different about my work is sequencing, which is doing the right thing at the right time. You say yes to a whole bunch of things you have no clue how to do, and you just find a team to do it, which is the key to making, hundreds and hundreds of millions, is you say yes and you find out who's going to do the work. You don't do the work. Huge key to that. And then unlearning this weird behavior. I think that a lot of it's inherited. I've been really using those language, patterns around a lot of money. You just see people struggle through this whole COVID thing and not being able to move online or to just shift their businesses. And I've been more busy this year in actively strategizing businesses on how to stay alive, how to get the stimulus packages, how to do any of this, how do you say yes in a world that's locking you down.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
There's
so
much. Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. And I love your phrase, the say yes and figure out how, right? That I remember learning that really early on in some of your trainings, and also seeing the way that shows up in your work. And the piece about people inheriting these money stories or their approach to money, even the employee mentality from parents, there's a huge part to that. There really is so much to unpack for so many people when you look at not only what we inherit from our parents around thoughts, ideas, opinions about money, how challenging it is for so many people to even talk about money, right? It's such a taboo topic for so many people. And one of the things that I love that you do in your work is it is front and center. We're going to talk about money. We're going to get women comfortable talking about money. Like, it is just a thing that we're going to do. And a lot of people, that's really challenging for.
And scary.
Yeah. And then you take what society layers on, especially with the employee mentality, and even our education system, right? Really designed to produce little employees
and a lot of rules. Think about like just the need for a lunch hour, the need for a break. I remember even being young, being super challenging, and just challenging the norm. It's like, why do you have to do break? I remember, I'll never forget, I think I was about 7. Kind of my breakthrough year. My mom would remember and feel like, oh my gosh, you became a challenge.
Breakthrough year at 7. That's hilarious.
I did. I'm like, why do you have breakfast and back in the farm you call it breakfast, dinner, and supper? And it's like, just eat when you want to eat. Why do we have all these rules? Right? Who says you have to go to bed if you're not tired? Like, I would just be this little inquisitive. Why do we do the things we do? Like, why is this just a pattern? Why can't you just, be more choiceful about it? So a lot of the work in the beginning with a lot of clients, especially during this marketplace where we're teaching them to make money, they just have to make a decision they want to. And it's that simple. And I can say it that simply, but all the techniques, as you know, around it, the ask, tell, asks, the talk to 21 people, like the whole structure I put around how to make money in a day. It takes a little while for some people who are really indoctrinated into that routine, need permission life, I call it, and they need to give themselves permission to be an entrepreneur. And even if you're employed, I mean, don't hear the message. I used to be pretty loud about it and say, just go quit. But, some people aren't good entrepreneurs, but so you should probably keep your easy job, but be an entrepreneur for a lot of reasons, right? There's so many reasons you want to be an entrepreneur and teach your kids.
Yes, yes. Well, and first of all, I still want to revisit the part about you. There must have been some internal drive, like the fact that you could see entrepreneurial opportunities even that young, right? There was just something in you that just maybe came that way, or you just had a passion for it, which I love, and that you could so quickly translate that into opportunities for other people.
Yeah.
And that ask, tell, ask system that you teach in, and I think it was like fast cash. I can't remember what you called it then. And now you're calling money marketplace. Is that right?
Yep. Calling it the Meetup Marketplace, where you make money. Like literally, I always say, I teach for 8 hours. Like I don't sub any of my work, as you know, Heather. I do the work because I have all the knowledge. And if I have a whole group of 50, 60 new clients, they need my experience. And then I have an awesome expert team that comes along. So we teach for 8 hours in 2 days. And then we are in a marketplace for 8 hours in 2 days. So it's a 2-day event. And so I'll teach for 2 hours and then you go practice for 2 hours. And then I teach for 2 hours and you go practice for 2 hours. So it's a huge team that just circles around and really has you break through, like, what should you be doing? Instead of whining about, I don't have any money and I need to make money and I don't have any cash flow. Learn the skills to do it. It's not difficult. I would say it's not difficult. We're just not trained. Like you don't, even like my son right now, he is third year university. And I'll never forget, I'm constantly getting texts, and he's getting a triple degree. He's getting accounting, finance, and management. And still to this day has said, I have never learned what you taught me growing up. Still, and because it's traditional. He said, they're teaching me to be an accountant employee, or be a finance manager, or, teach managerial skills, but not manage any of it, not learn your own cash flow, like generate it from nothing. And you don't have to have money to make money. It's all right here. And it's all right here. It's going to come out of your mouth, and you're going to provide amazing expertise or a product or service, and people are going to pay you for it. It's that simple in the way I say it. And most people listening going, man, this woman's crazy. I am not crazy. I make more people money than any other mentor or coach.
Well, and I'll share, this is a perfect time actually to share the story around how I initially got into your online version of this program that you're doing now. And the funny part is I was a relatively new mom, right? So my son Aiden was little tiny guy, and my best girlfriend and I had actually decided we wanted to go see Hugh Jackman on Broadway, right? We had this Hugh Jackman connection because our first time out of the house after having babies was seeing Les Mis in the movie theater, right? And so we were all hormonal and like crying, anyways, we were big Les Mis fans. And then this thing popped up and I was like, he's on Broadway in New York? What? I didn't know he did Broadway. And so I just asked her, I said, how fun would it be to go? And she was like, right, fun. I was like, let's do it. She's like, okay. First of all, I didn't have $2 in my bank account. Like I was a mom, full-time mom, also working, but really to pay bills. We had massive medical bills related to trying to have kids and pregnancies. And I'd had failed pregnancies after having Aiden. So there was just a lot going on in our financial story, right? But I was like, I still want to go. I want to figure out some way to make this trip and go. And your email, to this day, I don't know how I ended up on your email list. This thing that pops up literally in my inbox that says like fast cash or something. I was like, yes, signed up. Yeah. And do you know, I'd already committed to go on this trip. Like I paid for the airline tickets. She got the Broadway tickets, total. The whole trip cost us each, I want to say $800. We flew out on a Friday night, saw him on Broadway Saturday night, came home Sunday. That was our trip, right? And it was a pretty big deal for us as new moms to get away and like have this time together. Guess how much I made in your fast cash day? $800. Exactly what it took to pay for that trip. And I was totally like, this works. Like I needed $800 to do this trip. I did Loral's fast, but the process that you walked us through isn't easy. And for most people, it doesn't come naturally. Right? But it works. Will you share for a minute a little bit about your ask, tell, ask and how you get people into the mode of thinking in terms of creating revenue?
Well, and I'm going to go back to how we're conditioned. I mean, we're conditioned all through school to either go on to university or go get a job. Right. And then once you have a job, because I ended up having to actually be an employee at Chevron because I couldn't afford the helicopter insurance because I was flying around in seaplanes and helicopters as an independent business. And it just, the insurance got crazy. So then I became an employee, hated it. I got written up for insubordination all the time. But my point in sharing all of that story is we're not conditioned. If we were conditioned, which is why I don't only know, I want and am getting a lot of my work now that, so many people are homeschooling. I mean, we are in process of really making our work and getting it certified as a homeschool financial literacy course and a business literacy course because it's the right stuff we teach. See, if you were taught in 4th and 5th and 6th grade to sell, right, that you have a product and service and somebody's going to pay you for it. It's like simple. You're either going to buy a phone, you're going to buy this little computer, you're going to buy a pen, you're going to buy whatever,
Oh yeah, I still have a little bracelet that your daughter made that I bought from her at one of your events, right?
So they're not, I mean, if my kids want something, they know my answer. Is the one thing they can have at any time if they have the right offer is they can have my database, right? So if they need to make money or they want something that I'm either not willing to pay for, or that's just our rules, it's a 50-50 deal and they got to make the money. Like I'll never forget Logan wanted like one of those new iPhones when they first came out and he was really young. And I'm like, no, we're never going to share it. It's like, mom's not going to, but you can do anything you want. So I never say like, no. It's like, you are welcome to do whatever you want. So off his little brain goes thinking, what could he do? And he was like, I mean, he was winning massive like ski competitions. And I said, well, we're heavily in Australia and a lot of Australians are coming over. They haven't even seen snow, much less teach them to go ski. So I don't know. I mean, he's like a little squirt. I don't know, 6th or 7th grade, maybe. And he's like, what do you think, Mom? How much could I charge them? I said, well, how much is the phone? And so I don't even remember, but I remember it was like $50 or $75 where you can go hire a professional. But I said, yeah, but that professional may not have all the awards you have. So away he goes into my database. I'll never forget. He comes in, and he actually sat by Damon and Eric, and he came up with a little script. And he literally calls like, this is, Logan, Laurel's son. And I know you're coming over from Australia. And if you come over a few days early, you can pay $350 to have the resort teach you to ski, or you can have me teach you to ski. And that little squirt man on 2 weekends in a row, I think he made more than that, made thousands of dollars. But you learn. So my point about like why it's hard for a lot of people is the conditioning. Yeah, we're not trained. Even when you go to like continuing ed hours, I mean, even as a lawyer, you're trained like just to be in that profession. My brother's a PA.
Right. You're not trained the business of law. You're trained on how to read the law, analyze the law, research the law, right? You're not trained on the business of it.
No, and the doctors aren't either. My brother, again, PA, he's not trained on how to do any of the business of being in the medical profession. Chiropractors, they're not trained on how to be in business. I mean, no one is. In fact, if you think about most of the schools, even Harvard, Stanford, even the executive level, sales is not taught. You got to say, well, what are the 3 top entrepreneurial skills, right? Marketing, which is getting a lead, selling, which is sell the lead to become a customer, and get cash flow as fast as you can. The most 3 obvious things, and no one teaches it. Even at the entrepreneurial college level, if you look at, I've put my hat in the ring many times to become an adjunct professor. And they're like, well, you could teach cash flow management. And I said, no, I'm going to teach my stuff, which is how to make cash flow. There's no cash to manage if you don't know how to make it. But there's just they're like, well, that's not part of the curriculum. It's like, well, that's because you've never run a company before. Like you've got to have those 3. They're not taught. They're taught out here by entrepreneurs. And, even if some classes, they'll have like old theory marketing stuff. It's just not the right stuff. So when I kind of got, again, common sense, I think that comes from my Nebraska upbringing. It's just common sense. So you're not going to be a business if you don't sell. You can have the best thing ever. I mean, like I know, Heather, because you've been around this whole industry, some of the best content in the world still lives on shelves. Yeah. Or it's inventory that expired in garages that get thrown out. So some of the best stuff never gets marketed because it never gets distribution, it never gets sales. If you watch Shark Tank, what's the first question they ask everyone? It's the first question I ask my clients. Have you made a sale? Yeah. Does anybody want that thing? And they're like, no, but I'm developing it. It's like, no, you don't develop anything. If someone doesn't pay you for it, you don't go develop it just because you think it's a great idea. The market tells you if they want it, they will pay you. I mean, when I do books, I pre-sell books. Like right now we're doing a kid's book. I wasn't going to go on a big publisher. The more we thought about it, it's How to Make Your Kids Millionaires. Pretty simple title.
Mm.
And I wrote it, but I also took on a partner who's also a head of the table client. His name's Kyle. And he is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force fighter pilot and Air Force fighter pilot trainer. Most meticulous. I mean, you're teaching people to fly, maybe a few feet apart in $7 million aircraft. So very different way he taught his kids to be millionaires, but he is a multimillionaire. And he really came to our community to diversify and understand money rules and just wanted to be around smart money people. And so when he came in, we started talking about what he did to make his kids millionaires, what I did, and we couldn't have done it 100% different. 100% different. So our book is about the range, what I call the range, and everything in between about how you make your kids millionaires, because it's not difficult. So a lot of, the like you said, it's hard, for people is we're not taught to ask. We're not taught to sell. We're not taught to say, how do you want to pay? Credit card, Venmo, Cash App. I got to swipe, you want to email your, bank numbers. Like, we're not taught to do any of that. We're taught that the way we make money is it's just on an ACH right into our bank account.
Right.
So people don't even deal with money, and then they can auto pay their bills. So if you think about people's relative connection to money, it isn't there. Right.
Yes.
You're taught that money comes from a job and your bills can be automatically paid. And here's the most ridiculous thing is, why are you paying everyone else before you pay yourself? And I know that's an old saying of pay yourself first, but when I teach it, it's invested. So if you put your money into a real estate project or a gas and oil project or a marijuana project or whatever business you want to buy, you've made it and you've invested it, and it's not liquid. You can't spend it on a bunch of crap you don't need. So I have a very rigorous process about, making investing. But the first thing is you got to get making money.
Yeah.
And when you understand that you could go anywhere in the world and you can have that level of confidence, and that's probably, people say, why do you still do all this after all these years? Right. And I've got a huge team around me. So that's why we changed the name. Liveoutloud.com still exists. It is still our business, but the brand of Integrated Wealth, this is what we do. We integrate your wealth with a team of people. So I could back out a little bit, but still do the work, because I love the work, because people need this so desperately. You've got to learn to make money as a primary skill. It should be taught in 4th and 5th grade of how do you create money from a product or service that you give value to other people.
Yeah.
But people don't get it.
No, it's true. And there is something, if for anybody who is listening to Loral now and has not heard you present or sell from stage, you've got to get yourself to an event that, Loral is at. And the reason, it really is a joyful experience to watch you work and to see how direct and open you are. And like, look, if this is for you, here's how you're going to get it. It's this direct. You're going to pay for it up front, all on a credit card. No, I'm not your bank. You can pay in full, right? And it's just this very this is how it's done. Yes, and it's really empowering to see that level of invitation for somebody to sign up for something and honor themselves and your business in the process. And, even in my legal coaching with a lot of entrepreneurs, at various levels, but a lot of them are still having, there's no business out there that doesn't have a client issue at some point, right? It's just part of being in business. But I tell people, if you want less trouble from your clients, have them pay in full, have them fully commit and not be put on a payment plan. And there are ways that you can craft, right? Standing in your value, knowing what you have to deliver and charging for it and asking for it up front.
Have to. What's interesting is when you go into a car lot, you can create payments, but if you ever studied the financing model, because we own, that's something a new client just brought. One of my acquisitions this year was part of a Ford dealership. And I can tell you, financing is where all the money is. It's insane.
Right.
Warranties. It's insane because people don't understand what they think about. And this is what, again, another part of that financial conditioning is you're not taught, what you can afford and what you want and just to create whatever you want. In 2007, I bought a private aircraft and I just, I turned back into my company and said, all right, company, you got to make an extra $50,000 a month because we're going to fly privately now as a whole team. So we're not going to say we can't afford it. We're going to say, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to ramp up our sales. And that's what any successful business does. But when you walk onto I mean, so go back to my car example. When you go out onto a car lot, I mean, how people are taught. I mean, think about it even at the infomercial level is, is you can make a X payment or for $9.97 and 5 payments and blah, blah, blah. The amount of money you pay in financing is insane. It's better to put it on your own credit card and then renegotiate your credit card terms down to really low single digits, if not zero. I can help people get 0% cards easily. And even if your credit's wrecked, that can get fixed very quickly and you can get to those levels. So you're not paying for all that. But how people pay is so conditioned of can you afford it versus what other kind of money can you make?
Right. Versus how can I afford it? Right.
Right. And my whole premise is afford anything you want, live the life you want, but you got to make the money. So now let's get to the real skill. How do you make money from your skill base? You say, well, I'm not very skilled. Don't even lie to yourself. You all have skills. Kids have skills. That's why I include the kids, because I want them seeing. What's fun about the kids coming along, and especially the teenagers, is they'll get it because they don't have all the weird conditioning quite yet.
Yeah.
And then what I love is that they will keep supporting the parent. They'll say, Loral says, I have so many parents that say, oh gosh, I wish, I said, you actually say you wish they wouldn't have been there, but you're glad they are, because they now see a completely different way to generate through their life. You can move anywhere, you can create anything, you can sell anything. I mean, and you are correct. I mean, selling from the stage, and I'm hired to pitch.
Right.
I love
Well,
pitch.
you're brilliant at it. And I mean, you can talk to anybody else in the industry and they'll say watching Loral work from stage is really something you got to see. Like, it's a phenomenal thing. And for people to even develop a portion of those skills would serve them very, very well in business. This topic of the kids, I just love. I'm going to share a quick story. My son, who is now 8, but I think at the time he was probably 6. It was a summertime vacation, not this past year, but the year before. And we were in Montana. And like, I've got a kid who's obsessed with rocks, and I know a lot of little boys are, right? But like, we collect rocks wherever we go. And I didn't know this, but prior to having kids, when I remodeled this house in this lot, I ripped out all the concrete and I have like these natural rock pathways that I installed. So he just could be in our yard and be collecting rocks. Well, we're on this trip and we are in downtown Missoula, and he walks past a rock and gem shop. And you can just see the lights go on. He's like, Mom, people will pay you for rocks? Like, he just can't believe it. Like, his favorite thing people will actually pay for, right? So the rest of the trip, all he wanted to do was collect rocks. So we went out to this river and we helped him collect pretty rocks, and we chose them based on shape. And then we're in the motel or the hotel that night. And it was just like, some regular little hotel. And he's like, Mom, can we go down to the lobby and I'll set up a little store at a table and see if I can sell some rocks? And I was totally like, okay, let's do it. Let's see what happens. It was a really fun learning opportunity. And we talked about marketing and we talked about how you have to get people's attention. He's like, Mom, why aren't those people coming over here? But it was like these little mini business lessons that we got to talk about in this experience. But even just watching those light bulbs go off was so fun to see. So now, he's 8, he's a little bit older, but he's definitely to the phase where I'm like, how do I start teaching him about this stuff in a way that's really meaningful for him at his age? It's so important.
Going to read the book. I'll send
it
right here in a galley copy. We were going to have it ready for the holiday, and then we just had a lot of great feedback. So again, the way that we do books and the way I would teach you to do any product is you go sell it. You sell the idea. And I don't know how many hundreds of people paid Kyle and I $20 for our book. Yeah. Then we rolled up our sleeves and we went to work. And so then we worked on the book. Obviously I had already wrote a lot of books, so my stuff got kind of cut into his stories, and we put this blend together. And then we had such good feedback and pretty rigorous feedback. And then we kind of stood off and said, well, how should we really do this book? By the way, we had made thousands of dollars by then. So and still pre-selling the book. But then I went back up to McGraw-Hill, who I did my Millionaire Maker series, and I just said, it's time for Millionaire Maker number 4, which is how do you do it for your kids? Now that I proved it, that I can make kids millionaires on paper by 10. And then, I have a whole structure on how to get your kid to college. And my son is super academic and academic All-American, and he's got a massive NCAA, super proud mama, probably on his way to the NFL. But there are things like flying back and forth from Georgia, and originally he was in Florida. But those are not business expenses because he has a real estate company. His real estate company pays for him to go to college. Like there are so many things, Heather, that I cannot wait. I love teaching people, and they don't know about him because the traditional financial world doesn't step this direction. It's sort of, the way I describe what I do is there's, traditional medicine, and then there's all your alternatives. We're the alternatives in money that are legal. They are structured. It's what millionaires do. But see, who's teaching?
Yeah. Who educates the masses on this?
That. I mean, you're in a financial transaction. Here's one of my new fun homework assignments I give new people who just meet me is I want you to document, get a little journal. I want you to tick off how many times you're in a financial transaction throughout the day. So if you go to coffee, if you get in your car, you're driving, that's gas. You got to do that. You're living in your house. So you got to start your day with, you have some rent or mortgage to pay, and you turn on the lights. Well, that's electric. Think about how many financial transactions that are just blindly done without any choice or plan.
Internet, you and I connecting right now through a paid Zoom, account. Yeah.
Yeah. Phone bill. I mean, all this stuff that I should say is taken for granted. It's just unconscious. And so my job, right, the purpose I've taken on is to wake you up. And because once you start documenting, I don't think I've known anybody that can get through a day with less than at least a dozen. Like even sitting on the couch, you got to look around and say, okay, well, I have internet. I have my phone.
I'm going to eat food today.
I got to, if you're not, on your own well, you're paying for water.
I'm going to flush the toilet. That's right.
I mean, if you think about all the things that just kind of naturally get paid, they don't naturally get paid. It's an inherited behavior. And I just like to stop you dead in your tracks and say, I need a plan, at least a conscious plan that I'm choosing, and then consciously talk to your kids and let them have a choice. I think, the biggest, misgiving I think about the education system, having been through it and getting a master's degree and all of that, because I'm a fan of all of that. I think that's important, is you're not given a choice to be an entrepreneur ever, ever.
No, I know. Even in law school, I felt like by the end of my 3 years of legal training, you were getting funneled either into large law firm life or government position. Like those are your two choices. And I decided, I think the very end of my final year, there was a small class. I think there were probably only like 10 of us that signed up for this class, issues in solo practice. Right. Yep. But it was enough of I wonder what that's about. I signed up for it and I sat through that class and I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can do solo practice instead of going to work for somebody else who's going to tell me what I should be caring about, because I don't want to do that. I just lost my mom. I was not interested in working somebody else's version of my life. Right. So yeah, I'm with you. It's not taught, and it sometimes can take really unusual circumstances for you to get there, or hard circumstances, or losing a job, or, what a lot of people are going through now where they feel like they don't have a choice, or maybe they've already, in the past wanted to, they just never felt like they had the courage to, they never knew how to.
Yeah. And those are the ones that I love. I mean, there's some unconditioning that has to happen. I just, from my fitness background days, I just say just atrophy a lot of that conditioning, and you got to bring on some new skills. And again, the three biggest skills that I teach at the marketplace is how do you market, how do you get people interested, and generate that name, phone number, and email. And you got to have all three. In fact, if I'd give up one, I would give up the email before a phone number. You want a phone number always over top of an email. So how do you get people interested and their phone number, so then you can call them and you can ask them, what do you want and how can I help you? And then I'm going to tell you how I'm going to help you. And then I'm going to ask you for money. So that's my ask, tell, ask. It's very simple. And literally you'll be making money in a few minutes when you really get it. And there'll be this amazing moment. And the way we're doing it now is super fun, is we actually are on Zoom, and we have a small breakout room. So there's usually about 30 people in a room. And literally we have them, at first we had them go away, and then we're like, uh-oh, they're not coming back. So now we're like, okay, you got to stay here. And then we go like this, I want to do this. And then I'm going to mute like this. And then I'm going to be like this. And so literally you and I would be doing an ask to last. So we'd be mute from everybody. But
but you'd be on the phone. For people that are listening and can't see Loral, you'd be on the phone with your Zoom muted doing business.
Yeah. And then what we do is we can watch that if you do 2 or 3 of these sessions, these ask to last sessions, you're not making money, then you have live feedback that you can come back live and say, all right, I've done 2 or 3, you've watched me. I've gone from here to here to here, and I'm not making money. So then we rescript you, and then we work on your script, and then you get back out and you practice.
Yeah.
And the most money made really, Heather, isn't inside the classroom that we create, because that's really the practice place. It's when you get on the phone, you call your prior clients, because I'm going to teach you some skills that, I mean, we've had people make 19,000, 21,000 in 2 days.
Yeah.
But it's not because they're selling inside, even though you do sell.
Because they're taking those strategies and actually applying them in their business. Yeah.
And then going back to clients where they may have just sold something really small, and they got it, and they went back and they did the ask, tell, ask, and they got, a $5,000 sale or $10,000 sale.
Yeah.
Like, the money is all around you. It's just, again, we're not conditioned to go get it. We're conditioned that, my funniest thing about money is, if you need to make some money, it's in somebody else's pocket. So now you have to convince, sell, talk to them about what value you're going to provide for them, a product or service. You're going to provide value that money's going to come out of their pocket and get into your pocket. So you have some money, but you got to provide some value. So that's kind of the premise that we teach from, is you all have skills and talents. You just haven't monetized them and don't know how to price them. It's interesting too, Heather, we can talk about that for a minute, how many people have no idea how to price, yet they buy stuff all day long. It's such an uncomfortable position to say, I'm worth something. I'm worth, I've ramped mine up because, I hate selling by the hour because I can't fix you in an hour. I need some time. So I ramp my hourly up to $5,000 an hour just to make it ridiculous.
Right.
You can either do 25,000 for a lifetime or 5,000 for an hour. And they're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I said, I don't want to.
Makes plenty of sense to me.
I want to do an hour with you.
Right.
But I remember, like, when I was first 1996, did my first coaching, I remember thinking 200 for a month was like a big deal of putting a value on yourself. And I think not only women, a lot of people say that women have a hard time putting value on stuff. People do.
No, I agree. Even my husband, I'll share a little story. Even he's going through, and he is an employee. He works in biotech, and he's at a position that he really enjoys, but he's having to negotiate for himself, which he really hasn't had to do much of in his career. And we've been talking a lot about it, and he finds it highly uncomfortable. Yeah. Right? It is, I think, across the board uncomfortable for people to do that unless they just learn the skills to do it. And women, I think, are forced into learning it faster. If you're somebody who actually cares about your career and you care about making progress, you have to learn those skills earlier rather than later, or you get stymied.
Yep. Well, so, and I would say, I'm that contrarian on the International Women's Day where all the women are whining about, our inequity and all that BS, because I think I say, now I make more than my male counterparts always have, even my 20s and 30s. And it's because I ask for what I want. I negotiate for what I want. And I don't even remember, because I've been asked that more recently on interviews, like, how did I learn to do it? I don't remember. The only thing I could think of to give an answer would be, I've always had mentors. So I think through watching them negotiate contracts, I love being a fly on the wall. Yeah. I love listening to other conversations, other negotiations, understanding the art of the deal, the terms of the deal. To me, it's not scary. To me, it's fun. I mean, to me, that is the most creative conversation you can have, is to negotiate.
It's absolutely true. And I think, I've watched women, and I've got a sister who's really done well for herself. And what she started from was a single mom, newly divorced, with a 10-month-old and a 2 or 3-year-old. And she suddenly had to figure out how to swim. Right. And it was like no choice. And so she is amazing. She is just like hard as a diamond. Right. She came out the other side really shining brilliantly. But she really is like a way more full expression of herself now. Right. And she knows how to negotiate on her own behalf. And she will stand up for herself and stand up for other people on her team in the face of circumstances where, like, nobody else on the team would speak up, right? So it's really fun to watch people go through that transformation and be able to negotiate on their own behalf. Couple things. I know we want to be respectful of your time. I love that you are doing the money marketplace twice a month. So for folks listening, I'm going to invite you to that event. Loral is going to share a special link. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, but you can tell I am a huge fan of Loral's work. I would not be sharing this if I didn't believe in it. So I hope they'll take advantage of that. And I'll share the details in the show notes. So if you're listening, go visit legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Find Loral's episode and you will have all the information there that you can go show up. I think 2 tickets to your money marketplace. Is that right?
Yep. So the link is askloral.com. So spell it correctly.
Yep.
Yes. Loral is not Laural. That's wrong. I don't know who spelled that wrong. So askloral.com. Again, Loral. And then you put a / and then it's a GGGB. And Heather, that stands for
Guts, Grit, and Great Business. Yes.
Yep. So you put in GGGB, and then that'll take you to my store. And then you got to put in a code, which is also GGGB. Yep. And that'll get you 2 free tickets. So they're normally $97 for one. And we're going to give you a Heather special and double it up.
That's awesome.
You'll make money. If you do everything we say and show up, you'll make money. You really will. It's just, I mean, we've had people come with, total just unemployed, almost in tears, still, grieving their cubicle mates that I laugh at. And I said, they're not your friends. You just all showed up one day and had to hang out for 8 hours a day.
A while.
You kind of tolerated each other. I said, I can promise you, everybody, when I left Chevron said, oh, you're going to miss us. I mean, within 2 months, I was like, entrepreneurs talk to entrepreneurs, employees. So when you jump and you make this leap, the world opens up to the people that you have access to and the reason you have access. You have reason to talk to everybody about anything, and you have reason to serve their life. And if you don't go out and become an entrepreneur, I'm going to say, I always say, I kind of end on this too, Heather, I'm going to say you're ripping people off, because people need what you have. And until you value what you do, like I value what I do so highly, and I've refined it. I mean, probably from the first marketplace that you were into now, the refinement of the technology, I call it, and the skills, and having people really get that conversion to cash and understand the words and the languaging and the linguistics and the pricing. All of these things matter. And I've got 25 years of refining it.
Totally. It makes me want to come be a fly on the wall again to see it, right? Having been through it.
Really, so you got to come. And all of you listening, got to come, bring your friends.
Yes. The 2-for-1 pricing is awesome. And I can tell you, I mean, it really is reality, especially if you have any discomfort around marketing or sales. And this is the business we are all in. It's marketing and sales, right? A daily activity. Show up to the marketplace, because it'll be a really fun, educational, eye-opening experience for you.
And you get free.
That's awesome.
Use that link, GGGB.
Is it free or is it 2-for-1? Sorry if I screwed that up.
I was going to give free.
Okay. Awesome. That's amazing. Well, there's no excuse now, people.
Yeah, there's no excuse. And don't say you don't have time, because in that same conversation, just notice the excuses. I mean, they're never good. I don't have time, but I'm broke. Then go to the very place that's going to teach you to make money, and you get rid of everything else out of your life and go learn to make money. Then you can go do anything you want.
No, that's amazing. Loral, it's so great to see you here again today and connect with you. Anything else you want people to know about how you like to connect, where you're at online, where they should follow you?
Well, integratedwealthsystems.com is our site. So that has our overall event calendar and the different programs we do. And that's kind of our showcase site. But askloral.com is really what I call our actionable site. And we really ramped that up with COVID. So it's a place where if you have any question or need a request and say, I need somebody, like right now, I mean, depending on when people are listening to this, if it is towards the end of the year, I'm a huge fan and becoming an entity. So if you are deciding to be an entrepreneur, go all in, and, Heather can help you with it. Our team can help you with it. Become an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, limited partnership, trust, become an entity, because without it, you will have a heck of a time writing off 2020, which is a total write-off for the world. And then the bigger thing is, as the new stimulus, because regardless who ends up in that presidential seat, there will be another stimulus package. There has to be. With the lockdowns and the restrictions to small business, which you're going to hear me scream from the rooftops about
So brutal. It's
gonna-
so brutal.
Yep, you leave us entrepreneurs alone and let us serve the world, because we are the ones who are employing the world, by the way. So it's such a contradiction in what's going on for the economy. So I screamed through the rooftops about that. But it's a place, back to the Ask Loral site, where people just get to ask questions. They get to say, I need to get incorporated. And so the other thing I was going to say with that stimulus package is, if you are not a company and you're a solopreneur, you won't get it. You can't even apply for it. So this isn't I need to think about it. You just go do it. If you're serious, and even if you get re-employed, you still want to have a business so you can do deductions. Like, you can't write off this computer, you can't write off this phone, you can't write off part of your car, you can't write off, this little water bottle, you can't write off, you can't write anything off unless you have a reason legally to do it, which is a company. So become an entrepreneur. I'll help you learn to make the money. Heather will keep you legally protected, and we'll get moving.
That's right. It's a done deal. No, it's really, yes. And for anybody who's followed me for any length of time, I say the same thing. Like, treat your business like a business. Go get an incorporated entity set up first. That is the foundational piece. So that's huge. And now in 2020 and moving into 2021, more important than ever. Loral, so grateful for you. Good to see you again. I can't wait to be in touch and hear more about how things unfold for you and what's next. So I hope that we can have another conversation on here at some point.
We will. Thank
you.
Go to askloral.com.
Yes.
Your free tickets.
Ask Loral. And if you askloral.com/GGGB, or you can also find this link and other links in the show notes, legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. All right. Thank you so much. And while you're at it, hop over and leave me a review on iTunes and a rating so that you can share this show with other entrepreneurs who will be more able to find us and share messages like those that Loral just shared, which are so important for entrepreneurs building their businesses. Thank you, Loral.
All right. See you at the marketplace.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.